Hello darlings, it's nice to see you all again and thanks for joining me for today's video. I thought I'd show you how I turn my hearing on and off and explain to you about my cochlear implant so you can understand, because I've noticed that a lot of people don't understand. So as you can see at the moment, I'm wearing my processor. This part here is called a processor. So when I wear my processor, I'm able to hear. But when I take the processor off, then I can't hear. So that's how I turn my hearing on and off, by putting the processor on and taking it off. So I'll turn around and give an example. At the moment, I've got my processor on so I can hear. So right now, my hearing is turned on. But if I were to remove this like that, as you can see, now my hearing is turned off. Now I just put it back up here like so, and now my hearing is turned on. And now my hearing is turned off. And now my hearing is turned on again. So that is how I am able to turn my hearing off whenever I want to or whenever I need to. Like, for example, if I have a headache, of course I'm not going to put the processor on, because if I do, the noises will just make my headache worse. So therefore, having a cochlear implant is a good idea, because you can turn your hearing on and off whenever you want to. And you can't sleep with the processor on, because if you do, it could break. So I don't sleep with my processor on, which means that I can't hear while I'm sleeping. Now, I was born deaf, and I had the cochlear implant when I was 51 years old. I'm now 53, so I've had the cochlear implant about 2 years ago. And my surgeon said it takes about 5 years all up for your brain to be able to process being able to hear properly. So therefore, I've got another 3 more years to go before I will be able to hear properly with the cochlear implant. Now, I'll just take it off for a minute. Oh my God, everything's gone so quiet again. And I like that. Now, this part here is called the processor. And this part here is where I had the cochlear implant. That's where the cochlear implant is. And they put a magnet in the back of my head. So there's a magnet in here. So once I put it back on like this, as I show you, so it is held on via the magnets. And this part here, this is the battery, and this is the charger. So what I do is give you a proper look. This is the charger, so you stick that in there, and then I stick this part into the charger, and that will recharge. So I can charge 2 batteries at once. And then when it's charged, I'll just show you. And just turn it around like that. And as you can see, there's a light. I'll show you again. And I don't know if you can see that green light or not, but that green light means that it's fully charged. However, oh my God, everything's gone so loud again. But if the light is orange, that means it's charged but not fully charged. And this is a little case where I keep my processor in. And I've got a couple of more spare batteries. And that's where I keep the charger. And as well as this little thing. Now what this does, this is the volume, so I can turn my processor up or down. So if I want to hear louder or if I want to hear softer, I just press them up or down and I keep them in there like that. Isn't it a cute little case? Shabby Chick, woohoo! I love Shabby Chick. Who doesn't love Shabby Chick, eh? and there are a lot of times when I don't wear the processor because some sounds are really loud and they hurt your brain. Like the other day when I was making my other video, my cooking video about how to cook the chicken schnitzels in vegetable soup. And I was wearing my processor at the beginning of that video, but I took it off because some noises were too loud. And so the thing is that when I first put my processor on, oh my God, everything just goes so loud. And it takes me a few minutes for my brain to adjust. And my brain, it really does hurt for the first couple of minutes when you put the processor on because everything is just so loud. Because when you don't wear the processor, everything is just silent. But then when you go to put it on, all of a sudden everything is just loud and it takes you a few minutes for your brain to get used to that. And the best way I can describe that for someone who is able to hear properly is that if you were to stick your head next to a large speaker, and if I were to turn the volume up full bore, and you've got your head, your ear right next to that speaker, and if I just blast that sound or music or whatever through that speaker, your brain is going to hurt. And that's exactly what it feels like for me for the first couple of minutes when I put the processor on. But after a couple of minutes when your brain gets used to it, that stops, it just goes away. And I noticed when I first got the processor, and I was wearing it for the very first time, everything and everyone sounded like Mickey Mouse for the first 3 months or so. And that's normal because that's just your brain getting used to it. And that goes away after a while, but everything and everyone sounds like Mickey Mouse at first. Oh my God, it was so funny. And I tell you what, having the surgery for the cochlear implant, oh my God, it was the worst surgery ever. I mean, who wants to have an operation on their head, right? No one does. And it took 3 hours just for the surgery, and it took me a whole month to recover, and I couldn't brush my hair. And I wasn't allowed to wash my hair for the first 3 weeks after having the surgery or get my hair done. And this side of my face was really swollen and I looked like an ogre for a month. Oh my God. And of course everyone is different. And everyone has different experiences. And I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for myself and from my experiences, of course. And this was my experience when I had the cochlear implant. And I was lucky because my son was able to take a couple of days off work to look after me. And he picked me up early in the morning. It was still dark outside when we left. And he drove me to the hospital. And he stayed with me in the hospital all day. And we had to be at the hospital, at the A&E hospital at 7:30 in the morning. And because my surgery started at 8:30 in the morning. And Oh my God, it's a real serious operation. It's no joke. It's very complicated. And they spend such a long time getting you prepared for the surgery. And they take you into this little room before you go into the operating room where they prepare you for the surgery. And they put these, I don't know what it's called, but you'll know what I'm talking about. And they put those stockings on your legs and this long hose which is connected to a thing that looked like an air conditioner. And it goes in underneath the blankets and it creates warm air so your legs are warm. And I'm not sure what it's for, but they do all this before they wheel you into the surgery. And I couldn't believe how big the room for the surgery was. And all the surgery at the Ione Hospital is done on the second floor of the hospital. And I remember when we went into the surgery room, into the theatre, I remember looking at the lights thinking, I'm not going to go to sleep. And that's the last thing I remember. I don't remember anything after that until later on, sometime in the afternoon, I don't know what time it was, when I wake up in my bed, and which was on the 8th floor, and I wake up and my son was sitting there next to the chair, sitting there next to me. And I said to him, have you been here all day? And he said, yes. He came back home to check on Callie, then he came back to the hospital. And he stayed with me at the hospital until late that night, and he goes, I'll come back and pick you up tomorrow. So he took 2 days off work to look after me, and he drove me back home, which was good of him. I can't believe that's my baby. He will take any day off work if I need him to. I'm so proud of him. God bless him. He's the best son ever. And he really looks after me. He really does. And like I said, I'm so proud of him. And so when you have the cochlear implant, you don't get the processor straight away. You have to keep going back to the Ione Hospital as well as the cochlear implant centre, because you have to keep having checkups and hearing tests after you have the cochlear implant. And then after you have the operation for the cochlear implant, then they give you the processor about 2 or 3 weeks later. And I got my processor, which is this part here, remember, about 2.5 weeks after I had the surgery. And from my experience from the surgery, that was when I learned not to take, if you're bleeding, not to take paracetamol, aspirin, or ibuprofen, because they will just make you bleed more. And you can take other painkillers like Panadol, codeine, tramadol, whatever. But if you're bleeding, and if you take like paracetamol or an aspirin or an ibuprofen, they will make you bleed more. And that's why I couldn't take them as painkillers after I had the cochlear implant, because they would just make me bleed more. So that was another thing that I learned from this experience when I had the cochlear implant. And oh my God, it was quite an experience. And I remember coming home and listening to sounds for the first time, and I thought it was quite exciting. And even though I've had the cochlear implant for a couple of years now, I still can't hear over the phone. If I were to get my phone and hold it at the back of my head, I can hear. Well, this is while I'm wearing the processor, of course. I I can hear, but I can't hear properly. The best way I can describe it is like, I'm going to call it ghost whispering, because that's what it sounds like. And what ghost whispering is, that's when you're in a house or an apartment or somewhere, and you can hear ghosts talking, and it sounds like a whole pile of people or a couple of people having a conversation. It sounds like a muffled sound that's soft, and you can tell they're having a conversation, but you can't make out the words, and that's called ghost whispering. And that's the best way I can describe it, because that's how it sounds for me. And my surgeon doesn't know if I will be able to hear over the phone while I'm on the processor or not. But all I know at the moment is that time will tell. I mean, I've still got another 3 years to get used to being able to hear properly, because having a cochlear implant is not a quick fix. Whether you're born deaf or whether you have lost your hearing over time and you've had a cochlear implant so you can hear again, you have to relearn how to hear all over again. It's not a quick fix, it does take time, but that's okay, because like I said, I'm just grateful for the sounds that I can already hear now. I'm just happy with that, And I still haven't listened to any music yet, so I don't know if I ever will. I haven't even thought about it. I might one day, but I'm not interested in it at the moment. But I know that one day I will get there. It's just going to take time and practice, of course. And I have to wear my processor all day, every day, for it to work properly and to get the most benefits out of it, because if I don't wear my processor for a week or so, well then I have to start all over again, meaning because what happens is that if I take the processor off and if I don't put it back on, then it's like if you don't use it, you will lose it. And that's exactly what happens, because you have to start all over again. The only way is to keep wearing the processor all the time, every day. And when you do that, your hearing will get better and better and better. Because if you stop, you just have to start all over again. And that's another thing that I have learned about having a cochlear implant. And I've noticed that a lot of people don't understand when I'm wearing the processor and I've got my hair up like I have at the moment and I'm out in public. A lot of people will come up to me and ask me about it, which is okay. I don't mind. And a lot of people are fascinated about it, especially when I tell them how I can turn my hearing on and off. Oh my God. So funny. It really is so funny. And, but yeah, so I thought I'd just make a quick video explaining about my processor and my cochlear implant and how it works and why I had the cochlear implant. And I only have the cochlear implant because thanks to my real-life fairy godmother, God bless her, she's up in heaven now. Her name's Bee. Her name's Bee Rose, but I call her Bee for short. And she was my real-life fairy godmother. She was my best friend. And she was the one who organised for me to have the cochlear implant. So if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had a cochlear implant now. And I wouldn't know what it would be like to be able to hear. So I have her to thank for that. And I know God's looking after her up in heaven. Better be. No, I'm sure he is. But God bless her. And she was an Indian lady. And she's a so nicest person, very intelligent, you know, so patient, and she taught me everything, you know. And so, like I said, God bless her. Thank you, Bea. Give her a big thank you. And they wanted to take me into the hospital on the day of the surgery. And I said to her, I'm sorry, babe, but my son has to, because if you take me in, he's going to get jealous. But it all worked out fine anyway, because my son, he came and he picked me up and he took me into the hospital and all that. But they ended up having a fall the day before I was due for the surgery, so she couldn't take me in anyway, but she still came in to visit me in the afternoon, which was nice, and she brought me some flowers and some munchies. So that was good. It was lovely to see her again, and my son too. And so having a cochlear experience was quite an experience for me. And I'm here in Australia. You can have a cochlear implant from all over the world. So I don't know how other countries work, how they operate. So whatever country you're in, and if you're thinking about having a cochlear implant, just Google whatever country you're in. How do I go about getting a cochlear implant or whatever? And you can find out. Whereas in Australia here, Medicare pays for the surgery of the cochlear implant, and they also pay for the processor too, so you get it for free. And once you have the cochlear implant and you get the processor, you must insure the processor, because you only get the first one free. So after they give you the first one, if it needs to be repaired, or it breaks, or you lose it, or whatever, and if you need another one, it's going to cost you an extra $9,000. That's how much they cost here in Australia. So for that reason, make sure you get your cochlear implant insured. Okay, so how long has this? Okay, this video's been going for nearly 25 minutes. I think it's a little bit too long for talking about a cochlear implant. So like I said, when I turn my hearing on and off, now I've got my hearing on, and once I take it off, now I've turned my hearing off. And then I just put it back on, if I can get it back on. And like so. Hang on. Now I'm having a bit of a difficult time getting it back on. So it goes over the ear like that. And as you can see, it's got two sides to it. You've got a flush side and that. And what you do is your flush side connects to the head. So you put this over there like that. And then this up here where the magnet is. And voila! So now I've turned my hearing back on. Cool, isn't it? Okay, so I think I've explained everything that I wanted to talk about with the cochlear implant. Maybe I should have taken some notes so I didn't forget anything, but I think I have gone over everything. Yeah. But anyway, you get the idea anyway. So I noticed there are some people who have cochlear implants in both ears. And with my experience with this cochlear implant with the surgery, there was no way I was going to get the other ear done. because there's no way I was going to go through all that again. I mean, it's the most painful operation ever. But it's worth it, because once you get over the pain and the healing, then you can hear. And just before I finish up this video, I just want to let you know that here where the processor is and where the cochlear implant is, that's where I hear. So that means I don't hear with my ears. I hear at the back of my head here where the processor and the implant is. And when I hear a sound, I can't tell where it's coming from. You know, and when you hear new sounds, you've got to learn where they're coming from and what they are. And it takes a little while to be able to do that and to get used to that. And then once you learn about different sounds, then you can move on and learn about more sounds and so on. But for me, what that is, I just started with the small sounds first and then just moved up and, you know, like with different vehicles and different birds and all different things. You know, it depends on what sounds you hear during the day at that time. And that. But, and I also remembered is that I couldn't believe how technology has come a long way since I was a kid. I remember when I used to go up to have hearing tests up in Ballarat, and they certainly didn't have the technology that they do now. Whereas when I go into the cochlear implant centre, you know, they don't have to do hearing tests anymore. They just get this long, thin needle. Well, it looks like a needle. And they stick it in your ear. And they stick it right in the middle of your ear somewhere. And it's connected to the computer. And they just press a button. And it comes up on the computer, everything, so they can tell if you're deaf, if you're not. They can tell how much hearing you have got. They can tell what type of hearing you have or hearing loss you have. Everything comes up. So you can't lie to them now. They just stick that thin wire or thin needle in, whatever it is, connected to the computer, press a button, and they look at the screen and everything comes up. I wish I had had that when I was a kid, but they can't believe how the technology is. Oh my God, what it is now is just absolutely amazing. It really is. And not only that, they can also, remember when I showed you this part here? Now this is where I turn up and down the volume of my processor. But they can do that on their computers at the Cochlear Implant Centre. So even though the Cochlear Centre is over in East Melbourne and I'm on the other side of Melbourne, they can turn my processor on and off. They can turn my processor up and down. They can also tell how long I've been wearing my processor for. So you can't lie to them. Because when I went back for one of my checkups not long after I got my processor, and I'd only been wearing the processor, 3 hours a day, and she asked me, how long have you been wearing it? I said, I've been wearing it. And that's all I said. And she goes, no, you haven't. You've only been wearing it 3 hours a day. And I said, how did you know that? And she goes, the computer told me. Because what they do is they take your processor, they take the battery off, and they connect this to the computer. And then they just push a button on the computer, and then, everything's gone loud again. So they just press a button on the computer and all this information comes up. How long you've been wearing the processor every day. They know the volume, they know everything. So you can't lie to them. It's very interesting. So I thought, well, if this is how far technology has come now, imagine what the technology of the future is going to be like. Oh my God, there's nothing that they won't be able to do. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm just glad to be able to hear and to be able to hear different sounds, which will continue to improve. As long as I keep wearing the processor all day, every day, it will. And hopefully after I've been wearing the processor for 5 years, then I'm hoping I'll be able to talk over the phone. But at the moment, I'm just doing what I usually do, which is just if I need to communicate over the phone, it's either text message or email. But if I do need to actually speak over the phone, I have to get a friend to help me with that at the moment. So this is what I'm hoping for. All I know at the moment is that time will tell. But I'm hoping one day in the future I'll be able to hear over the phone, but I don't know yet. And my surgeons don't know yet. So time will tell. So hopefully that will be. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap this video up. So thanks for joining me for today's video. I hope you found this information interesting or helpful. Maybe you have a hearing loss and you're thinking about getting a cochlear implant. You know, maybe you have a hearing aid, but maybe they don't help you like they used to anymore. So you might need to think about having a cochlear implant. So like I said, whatever country you're in, do your research and learn as much information as you can about it. Or just go straight to the eye and ear hospital in your capital city and they can inform you with whatever information you need to know. And then you just book it in. And the best way to do it is to call them over the phone or go in. Don't send them emails because they will not respond to emails. And where I learned that was from, because before I had the cochlear implant, I was going to see this lady at the hearing centre. And she sent them a few emails regarding me asking them if they could give me an implant, a cochlear implant. And they did not respond to one single email. And I was talking to my best friend B about it, and I said, well, she sent them an email, but I haven't heard anything from them. And she goes, don't worry, I'll do it. I'll look after you. She said, I'll give them a call and I'll organise it. And that's exactly what she did. And it didn't take them long to book the surgery. They book you in as soon as they can. So that's another thing to remember. So if you're planning on getting a cochlear implant and you want to get in touch with the eye and ear hospital or the cochlear implant centre or both, don't send them emails. Contact them, either go in there in person or contact them orally over the telephone, okay? That's most important. Okay, so I really need to wrap up this video now because it'll become too boring if it's too long. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video. So Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so to support me. And of course, don't forget to give my videos a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. So until then, please be careful, stay safe, and of course, thrive safely. Bye-bye, darlings.